Good morning, Unity of Springfield. My name is Amy Burnett, and this morning I've chosen to share a discussion about the book An Intentional Life, 5 Foundations of Authenticity and Purpose by Dr. Lisa Kentgen. So now, the reason I chose to share this book is not because it has anything revolutionary to say. It just always excites me when I read something that's not directly a Unity text, but then it fits so well with our foundations and our beliefs and what we know to be truth at Unity of Springfield. And so this book is along those lines. Now, Dr. Kentgen is a clinical psychologist with over 26 years of experience providing psychotherapy and other clinical services, primarily in the state of New York. In her bio, she does describe seeking wisdom of spiritual leaders such as the Dalai Lama and attending retreats aimed at self-discovery. So I think it's pretty safe to say that she's a like-minded clinical professional. However, it's still exciting to see that these are things that she uses within her clinical practice to help people really discover who they are and how they can best live their life of purpose and have, a practice of intentional living. The other thing I liked about the book is that she gives some examples of intentional practices that are really easy to incorporate into a daily structure. The other thing that really struck me is, I don't know about any of you, but as we have been adjusting to new normals and just the differences in things, like for me, that means working from home when I worked out of an office before. And so my experience was working in an office with 31 other people, and now I'm working from home. And I know initially, I had all of this motivation of how that was going to be amazing for me, and I was going to make sure that I inserted all of these intentional practices into my day that I didn't feel like I had the opportunity to do when I was in the office. And what I found was my work didn't change, just the location of where the work was happening changed. And so it was a little more difficult than I originally thought to try to insert some of those things into my daily practice. The other thing I've noticed is that as time has gone on, that kind of energy for those activities has maybe waned a little bit and kind of hit a low point, and now it's kind of hitting a point of like, okay, we need to reflect and really get back to what was working. For me, that's my experience. I don't know if anyone else is having that same shared experience. The other thing I thought is, this book goes really, it's in line with the 5 principles of unity. And so sometimes when I think about doing talks that really relate back to those 5 principles, I think there's a part of us that's easy to say, well, but those are the 5 principles. Like, that should be one of the first things we get, and we should just have that down, and it should be easy peasy, right? But no, they wouldn't be foundational pieces of our belief system if they were easy to attain, or if it was simple. They are the foundations. They are the big things that we need to keep our awareness on in order to grow spiritually and personally. So that's kind of where I'm coming from today. I always like to share that because I think it's important to know that, those of us that are doing classes here at Unity, we're not just, picking random things to do. We really do try to pick something that is resonating with us, and then through that shared experience, we hope that something will resonate with you. So I hope that's the mark we hit today. So Dr. Kentgen mentions that in today's world, with digital communication becoming the norm and societal values and work cultures focusing on short-term productivity and unnecessary urgency, as well as flawlessness, it's easy to disconnect from the small moments of everyday life that lead to connection and vibrancy. I would say that most of us would agree with that there is so much going on, and when there's, especially, like I said, in this work from home time. So I went from being in an office with my 31 coworkers to being at home. And so if I want to have a connection with them, that's either by phone or that's a video chat or something different than it used to be. It's not walking to their cubicle or walking to their office and having an actual conversation. And so we were already at a point where some of that was very prevalent in today's society. And then as we all moved home, it became even more important. You know, we saw some of that was used in good connection. So people having family dinners with, you know, video chat, and because they couldn't be there in person. But I think it just really brought an awareness to how sometimes in the way that things are structured, there's almost a preference to communicate in some other form other than in person. But now that we've been forced home and we were kind of told, oh, you can't talk in person, we've realized how important it is to us and how much we want to foster that. So that was interesting. Her definition of an authentic life is when you know yourself deeply and trust your ability to shape your life in a way that aligns with your heartfelt interests. You have clarity about the conditions as they currently exist, both within and outside yourself, and you understand how to best develop and utilize your resources. It enables you to shape a life of purpose and ultimately meaningful life in which you experience yourself participating in something greater than yourself. Now that probably sounds really familiar to students of Unity. It's the path of recognizing the divine in all humans, knowing that we are connected to divine mind at all times, and knowing that everything is always working towards our good, regardless of what the outside circumstances might be telling us in any given moment. So in Unity, we also talk about developing and strengthening our spiritual practice. It's important to set aside regular time for connection. And Dr. Kenton discusses intentional practices or exercises that foster a greater self-understanding and allow us to deepen and broaden our knowledge of ourselves. So she puts those in 5 foundational categories, which again may sound familiar if you're a student of Unity. So she says the 5 foundations that she teaches to her patients are awareness, reflecting, choosing, acting, and allowing. So she gives a reminder that it's really important to stay focused and aware of what is right about you. And so we in Unity, we talk about, gratitude and really finding those moments of gratitude and appreciation for the things that are going well and the things that are going right. And she, says the same thing. So, and remembering that even a small step in the right direction is something that you can build on over time. And that it's really fundamental to real and lasting change. That's what she's seen in her practice of 26 years. And again, as students of Unity, that's what we know to be truth, that we have to stay focused and aware on what we do want to see happening and what is going well, and have gratitude for that. So she talks about our tendency to get in our own way and to really beat ourselves up about what we're not doing and about how we didn't do it perfectly, and all of those things that we beat ourselves up about. And she said instead we should have awareness that we might never get out of our way entirely. Like, we are a human being living in a human world, and so while we can grow and we can do it far less than we used to, the idea is not that you, to be successful or to be truly enlightened. It's not so much that you have to strive for this level of perfection. It's just striving for a greater level of awareness. And building new skills. So it's going to just get you closer and closer to the purpose. And so as long as you are making a step, even a baby step, then we should appreciate that and really see it as a good thing in our lives and give ourselves credit for doing that one small step. Even if we took 10 other steps in a different direction, we can be aware of that and acknowledge it, but we need to really stay focused on the thing that we did that was moving us in the right direction. So again, let's see, this next passage sounded pretty familiar. So as you live more intentionally, something else occurs. The external world starts providing opportunities that you never imagined. This is because at every stage of development, you can only imagine possibilities within your current knowledge base and worldview. Experiencing yourself as authentic, you more readily recognize new opportunities, welcome them, and utilize them. You will find that with your new way of perceiving the world, you already have everything you need to fulfill your purpose. Familiar? Yes. So what I hear there is law of attraction, of course, and it's just interesting to hear it explained, from that psychology standpoint, that clinical standpoint, that is a way that our brain works. It is a part of developing your brain or your mind to pay attention to the opportunities that are already there. And, we've talked about that so many times in Unity. Sue has, given us so many different examples of ways to, that once your awareness, kind of when you're ready, the teacher will be there. When you're ready, the opportunity will show itself. And just the more authentic and intentional we are about our daily actions, the more opportunity we will see all around us. And it's not that it wasn't there before, it's just that we were not in a mind frame or a vibration to see that possibility before. So the first foundation is awareness, and she talks about that being intentionally bringing consciousness to something. So many of you may have a really great stillness practice. For most, that's probably a meditation of some type. But I've also had discussion with lots of different people, whether it be at church or just friends who were seeking to practice more mindfulness. And a lot of people talk about struggling to really put that practice in place. Like sometimes finding 15 minutes, even once a day, just seems like an overwhelming, task for someone to put on their to-do list. So Dr. Kintgen offered 2 different practices for increasing your awareness skills that might be a little bit easier to put into your daily routine. So the first she calls simply noticing. And we've heard this in other teachings as well, but it's, I think, just a good reminder. So if you're taking a walk, if you're going for a bike ride, sitting outside, waiting in a drive-through line, whatever you might already be doing in your normal activity, but it doesn't really require you to be engaged in a conversation or something like that. So don't ignore someone that's standing right in front of you to do it. But if you're just kind of in one of those moments where you have the opportunity to simply notice, she suggests just using your senses to notice the environment around you. So what exactly are you seeing? What are you hearing? What thoughts are playing through your mind? How does your body feel in the moment? What smells can you notice? And then you might get distracted from noticing and start to think about your to-do list again or whatever else you have going on. But just practice allowing that and then bringing yourself back to the noticing. So even if you have a strong meditation practice, this one could really be helpful in working on that skill of allowing those thoughts to pass and bringing yourself back to awareness, because that's really what it is the mindfulness of really being aware when your thoughts kind of try to sidetrack you from what you're doing, but not being resistant to that, just saying, oh, okay, there I went off on that track, but now I'm back to noticing. And so she just, really talks about using that as a practice throughout your day in different scenarios, so that when you do reach a point where you want to increase your mindfulness practice, maybe you want to start meditating 10 or 15 minutes a day, it might be a lot easier for you to allow those thoughts to come and go, because you've already been practicing it. You've already been building that skill in little ways throughout your day for, weeks or months by that time. The other one is pausing and breathing. So again, it seems like a kind of a small meditation practice, but I think it's just one of those, like doing something in a bite-sized chunk so that it becomes a little bit easier. And I know for me, sometimes I get caught up in wanting things to, like I'm going to meditate, and so I, need to be, in this room, and I need to be by myself, and nothing else can be going on, and I don't know, the stars have to align just perfectly for me to have the right opportunity to do whatever activity. And so what happens a lot of times is I end up not doing that activity because I'm waiting for these perfect circumstances. So I think this pausing and breathing is one that I've been using a little bit, and it's just reminding me that you can do things no matter where you are, no matter what's going on. You can find moments of mindfulness in everyday life. Even when it's, when maybe 99% of your day was chaotic, you can find the 1% of your day where you can just stop and breathe. And so that's the pausing and breathing is just, she recommends twice a day for a month. And she said you'll be amazed at the difference of just doing it that short, that short frequency. So it is stopping other activity, getting, at least putting down other things. You can either close your eyes, or she says just focus on something that's a few feet in front of you that's pleasing to look at, or that's comfortable for your gaze to land on. And then take 5 easy and full breaths, focusing on the in and out of each breath. And once that's done and your body's kind of relaxed, stay still for 2 minutes, and again, just notice the thoughts and the feelings that are coming to the surface during that time. Not resisting, not fighting, just allowing them to come and go. And then at the end of the 2 minutes, take a couple of deep breaths and bring yourself back into awareness about what's going on around you in the room. And so this one is just a really good way, like I said, to pause. She talks about using it if you catch yourself, if you have an awareness that you're feeling a little bit of stress or anxiety, that you could stop and use this practice. Or if you're feeling overwhelmed with thoughts, that you could just stop and do the breathing, and that might sort through. And she talks about really, looking at what thoughts came up and what feelings came up, and it might give you some good insight as to why you suddenly were feeling anxious, or why you were feeling overwhelmed, or it may bring a moment of clarity to your thoughts and allow you to move on with your activity with more energy than you had before. So she talks about that the deepest work that she does during therapy is in the pauses in the room and staying present to what arises during that pause. She said that what typically arises in the stillness holds more insight, utility, and truth than any expert opinion. Again, that was just really exciting for me to read because I felt like, well, that's just truth. Like, it's just further evidence. Here we have a trained clinical professional saying that one of the most powerful things that people can do when they are seeking her services is when they're in those sessions to be present in the quiet moments and really pay attention and allow whatever is coming up. And so for us in Unity, we would just say, well, of course that's the most important. Because if you can find that connection to source and that connection to divine mind, then what you need in that moment is going, to come forth. It's going to present itself for you as the universe is always working towards your good. And so if the desire is there to find what it is that you need to be paying attention to, and you allow yourself a moment of stillness and a moment of pause, then it's more likely to come through for you. So the second foundation is reflecting, and that requires practice in more directly noticing your experience, which allows it to more meaningfully impact you. So becoming conscious of the quality and the content of your thoughts. And one of the intentional practices that she uses for reflection is a shift from why to what. So she says, look for an uncomfortable situation. It could be something that happened a long time ago in your past even. But it's something that your thoughts keep getting stuck in the why statements of why did this happen, or this is probably why it happens. So she said the activity is to write down the causes that your thoughts came up with at the time. So even if you've moved past it a little bit, you can still write down some things like in that moment, what was happening, or why did you think that that happened? So, for example, if you were going for a job interview and then you didn't get it, and so all of the whys that you came up with, for why you didn't get that job. So it could be like they didn't think I looked professional, I wasn't good enough for the position, my qualifications weren't what they were looking for, whatever the why statement is. And she says, and then reflect on the same incident with the question, what was happening, but only write down things that you know to be fact, that you can actually, you know to be truth. So in that same example, that might be something like, I really prepared for the interview. I had the necessary qualifications listed on the job announcement. I felt great about my answers and my resume. I was disappointed that I didn't get the job. My confidence took a real hit when they sent the rejection letter. Those are all things that you can put in, kind of a factual term, and so you can acknowledge that those are things that happened, and maybe that will allow you to let go of some of the obsession on the why part of that, and so that when you're reflecting, you're really looking at what did that bring up for me, and knowing that what might I do different in the future, or what actions will I take so that I don't end up in that same situation again, or so that I respond to it differently. Maybe not getting that job threw you into a depression for 2 months, and so next time you would be more aware of what those feelings and thoughts created in your life, and knowing that you don't want to go down that path again, you would be able to, kind of pre-plan or be proactive in the future. The third foundation is choosing. So bringing consciousness to your choices instead of allowing conditions outside of our awareness to exert influence over our decision. Choosing with intention frees you to take meaningful risks without the pain of future regret. Ugh, that sounded good. So she talks about simplifying decisions that you need to make routinely, and that allows you to have more intention around decisions that are really important to you. And so she really talked a lot about weeding out the things like, what decisions do you actually have to make, and what things line up with what's important to you. And so are you do you have yourself stuck in this place where you're making 1,000 decisions a day about different things, and you're feeling overwhelmed about things bombarding you, and you needing to make these choices, and they're all things that aren't really working towards your higher good, or aren't really in line with your goals, and so they're taking your time and energy away from the choices that you actually do value and do see as important, and would be the most effective at moving you forward. So her intentional practice for this one is beginning your day with a 1-minute reflection about the choices, if any, that you need to focus on for the day. Recognizing that unexpected or urgent things are going to come up sometimes, but that would really allow your mind to remain uncluttered and have more attention going to the decisions that you're making. She also points out, and we've talked about so many times in different classes and different materials, because it is such a truth, that fear is the greatest limitation to choice. So when fear is clouding our choices, we won't be open to all of the options. And this is what I thought was interesting. So she says that what she's noticed in her practice working with, a lot of different people over 26 years, is that when we make a choice without acknowledging the fear that we have surrounding that choice, that even if it works out well, we don't find the outcome to be as meaningful, because we didn't make the choice in a fully authentic and intentional manner. So I just thought that was so powerful, because I've felt that in my own life, that when you kind of make one of those choices and you go, oh, I don't know, it's just the lesser of two evils, and I'm going to make this choice because that's the lesser of two evils, that even when it works out, there's a little bit of doubt about your own ability to discern. And it's easy to say, oh, well, I had a 50-50 shot at that coming out. Or, yeah, I chose the lesser of two evils and it turned out okay, but we'll never know how the other turned out. So we do a lot of second guessing of our discernment when we allow fear to play too much of a part. So she says, really, being aware of that fear that's clouding the decisions and befriending it or reflecting on it, just acknowledging, like, I am having some fear come up about this decision. And what does that look like? What am I actually, what is that fear right now? Is it fear of rejection? Is it fear of failure? Is it fear of lack? What is it that is really clouding this decision? And to pause and kind of make friends with that fear and acknowledge, I'm having some fear here, that will allow you to make a more intentional choice that isn't followed with those doubts or regrets or the what ifs that might come from doing that. And that the more confident we become in the fact that we are intentionally making choices that are shaping our circumstances, the more we come to be confident and trust in our inner guidance system. So that just really resonated with me. The fourth foundation is acting. So knowing how and when to act in order to build the life and world you want to see. And it can also include restraint from action. Choosing not to act on something is still an action. You had to choose the inaction. And so she says intentional practice in this area can help us know when to persist and when to move on. We can't control how the external world responds to our actions, but we can control and take ownership of the spirit in which we are acting. She describes the danger of getting stuck in chronic doing, and this again resonated with me, and I know that I've witnessed this with others in my life. So chronic doing is when you feel the need to be busy and constantly in action all the time, whether it's truly needed or in line with the life that you desire. So have you ever had those moments where you're just busy, busy, busy? Like you get to the end of the day and you think, oh, I was so busy. And you just have this compulsion to keep doing things. But also in reflecting at the end of the day, you have the thought, I was so busy and I didn't do the one thing that I started out the day saying was important to me. Or, you spent the whole day doing something when you maybe had the opportunity to connect with someone, and you ended up staying busy, busy, busy doing all of these tasks, to thinking that would bring a sense of accomplishment at the end of the day, but you completely missed out on some personal connection time with someone that you really care about. I think that's a real thing. So she says the chronic doing requires large expenditures of your time and energy, and it often is the result of having a difficult time pausing and being still. And so she says if we were pausing and being still more, we would naturally just weed out some of those tasks that don't hold meaning for us or aren't getting us closer to our greater purpose or our goals in life. The intentional practice for this one is focusing on what is here right now and what is possible in this moment. So listing actions that will actually move you towards your goal or your purpose or happiness, the things that you can do in this moment or in this day, and then put your time and energy towards accomplishing those goals. And she calls that wise effort. And so I think we've heard this before. I know in, Mary Morrissey in, I lost the name of the class, Prosperity Plus, there it is. She used the quote to do what you can with what you have in this now moment. What you can with what you have right now. So maybe in one of her classes, she talked about maybe you don't have the money to buy your dream house today, but what you can do today is spend 10 minutes making a list of what would be in your dream house. Or maybe what you can do today is thinking about ways you can downsize your life temporarily so that you have the abundance or the finances that you want to have, to build that dream home in 5 years or whatever that might be. Or maybe it's getting another job, or maybe it's, pursuing some other avenue of abundance. And you can start with the baby step, the small thing. What's right in front of you today that you can take action and do that's going to move you a little bit closer to where you want to be. She also says that meaningful action often will expose underlying roadblocks that have been hidden. So you'll find your own resistance. Like as you start to do those baby steps towards things, you'll start to feel some resistance, or you'll start to see some roadblocks coming your way. And she says that's really, it can be discouraging, but we just really need to recognize that as part of the learning or the evolving that has to happen in your own mind so that you can actually get to the goal that you want. So being willing to meet it with openness and go deeper within yourself and understand that resistance that you're having, it's just going to make you stronger, and it's going to make you more willing to pay attention, and it's going to get you closer and closer to the things that you actually want to see in your life. And I know that, again, that really resonated with me. I think, so often we have this goal or we have an idea and we start to take steps towards it, and then things get a little bit hard, or we start to doubt, or we start to, you feel those roadblocks coming up within you, and you really have to make a choice. Am I going to sit with it and figure out where it's coming from and move past it, or do I abandon the goal? And so that's what she's talking about there. The fifth foundation is allowing. And so the more you allow by letting go of the unnecessary, the more possibility that exists. While allowing can initially feel passive, it's very active. The skill of allowing is integral to experiencing abundance and a life of deeper meaning and purpose. It is a letting go of trying to control the universe and being open to the possibilities that are unfolding all around you. Again, that sounds really familiar, and it's, as Sue has said before, letting go, it's easy, right? You just, easy peasy, just let go, just do it. But it's not so easy because we want to resist and try to control and make things happen the way we want. So the intentional practice that she suggests here is choose to carve out some time for yourself that's not goal directed. So just make some time, make a day, make a block of time, whatever that is, to engage in an activity just for the sake of it, where you don't really have any goal in mind. There's nothing you necessarily want to accomplish. Maybe it doesn't have a specific time frame. And you just allow yourself to simply be and accept what opportunity presents itself and just go with that. And then afterwards, spend some time reflecting on how that made you feel and what you were thinking during that time. Maybe, did you have any resistance, and did you have to pause and allow yourself to go back into that mode of just allowing things to happen and not having an agenda? And then really think about what went right during that time. What things just happened to work out, or what beautiful opportunities presented themselves when you let go of your own agenda and just let opportunity happen around you. And so she says that remembering that the foundations aren't separate from one another, and that to be truly authentic and intentional, the skills from each area have to be working together to shape our experience at all times. And I think that's the same with the basic principles of unity. You can't, they're not exclusive of one another. You have to be kind of integrating all of that in, maybe at different levels at different times, and different situations are going to bring up a need for you to do some work in a different area. but it's really the integration of everything. And it's not just a step-by-step, oh, we do this, and then we reach total enlightenment, right? Like, it's not a linear process. Sometimes we go back and forth, and depending on the situation, we have more skills in one area than another. And she's just, confirming that that is what she's seen with her patients and in her practice as well, is that working on all areas simultaneously and then recognizing that that's going to look different depending on the activity is one of the most meaningful things you can remember. So whether your practice is a few minutes a day or hours a day, as long as it's a sustained effort over time, personal growth and transformation is possible. Living an intentional life is a commitment to becoming more aware and focusing attention and energy towards the thoughts and activities that enrich your life and the life of others, allowing you to tap into your authentic self. And for me, that just fit right in with an idea that we hold very near and dear at Unity of Springfield, as evidenced by our mission statement, to empower each other to be authentically all that we came here to be. I hope that there was some meaning in there. I hope, that you heard something that maybe will allow itself into your daily practice and help you to be more authentically who you came here to be. I know, like I said before, I feel the ebbs and flows myself, and whenever I am feeling that, I always go back to the foundational stuff, and I just really try to focus on what area there might need my attention and find a practice that works for me. An hour of meditation a day doesn't work for everyone, but maybe this, pausing and breathing throughout your day for 2 minutes, maybe you could fit that in 3 or 4 times a day instead of twice a day. And that would really, also help bring you to that still, quiet place inside. I truly miss each and every one of you. I miss seeing your faces, and I miss the wonderful conversations we have when we get to do these classes in person. There's a hope that we will return to that at some point in the near future. We're just waiting. We want to do that safely and responsibly, but just know that as part of your board also, I just want you to know we're sending everyone love and positive energy all the time, and we are really thinking about each of you every day and what's best for our ministry. And we're so grateful that you're all with us, and we feel you, we feel your energy, and we love you. I love you. The light in me beholds the light in each and every one of you, my friends. Namaste.